Welcome back to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, special Gone Nuts series. It's time for a monthly update from one of our intrepid Gone Nuts athletes. How has their training gone? What are they thinking about with the event just around the corner? And what are they learning about themselves? All these questions and more will be answered in the next 15 minutes. In this episode, we're checking in with Jo Stumm to see how her training is going for the Gone Nuts Challenge. Today on Fit Mind, Fit Body, we are having another check-in with one of our athletes for Gone Nuts, Jo Stumm. How are you?
I'm good. Just got over the Christmas, New Year's period, but yeah, going well.
You're feeling good? I know we were just saying, and other people who don't live in Tassie may not understand, but it's quite warm here in Tasmania today, isn't it?
Yep. It's lovely actually, and the weather has been amazing. I was just complaining to you about the fact it started raining this afternoon, but it's been stunning. So it's a hard time to leave Tassie when you're here at this time of year because the weather's just so good. So we travelled up to New South Wales, which was also really lovely weather up there, but it's always a shame to leave Tassie when it's so stunning.
It is. I know that because we have Christmas on the mainland. Some people laugh when you say that, but on the mainland, we have Christmas every
That's
second.
what we all call it.
And anyway, when we do that, we kind of smugly sit over there sometimes thinking, oh, the weather's horrible in Tasmania at that time when they've had really wet and windy weather here. But this year, I'm really glad, like you said, that I was here because it's been very pleasant the whole time.
It's just been so nice and so nice to get out, and it's not always the easiest in the middle of winter when it's dark and cold to get out for a run, so it lends itself to actually keeping up with the good old running training.
Yeah, and the longer days. I found my son's came from Brisbane for Christmas, and one of the things that he noted was just how much longer our days are. And you don't realize when you're here all the time, just that
it's so nice. I went for a little mountain bike ride the other night and left at I think like 7:30 at night, and still back when it was light, and you just can so easily do that. It was lovely.
That's pleasant. Well, so with all the travel and the Christmassy things that have gone on in the last 4 weeks, how's your training gone? How have you managed it all around all of that?
Pretty good. I mean, there's a few sessions that maybe didn't get done, but mostly pretty good. Yeah, mostly pretty good. Got my long runs in, which is good. Been a bit slack on the strength sessions, I have to say. But mostly good. I think I find personally travel really difficult for when you're on a bit of like a training schedule. I think some people can do it really well, but I find it really hard when I've traveled or when I'm traveling to just get out and go for a run if I'm not used to the area, or you're stuck on a plane and then you're just a bit tired from travel. But once I'm at the destination, it's fine. So no, it's going all right.
I have this weird thing, as I said before, we are in Melbourne every second year, and we usually go, we haven't gone this year, but we would normally go even just after Christmas for a few weeks. And weirdly, it doesn't matter how fit I am, but just that period of between Christmas and New Year's and early Jan, every run feels like I've never run. I just feel quite challenged. It's weird. It's like,
it's true.
I'm really fit. I just feel unfit. And maybe it's the overeating and the over drinking and the not enough sleep. I don't know. It's how it affects your body. But I just always think, gosh, am I even a runner? I don't, this is not comfortable.
I know. Sometimes the first like 5Ks, I'm like, no, this is not working. And then you think, I've got a really long way to go. I find that too. And I think it's because it's just the routine of life. Well, for me anyway, the routine, when that's changed a little bit, I do find it more difficult. And you might even just like maybe going for a run at a different time of day or in a different location. I find it does make me, like you said, sometimes feel just a bit not right.
Yeah, it's weird. I've always found it disconcerting because it's this thing that I've been doing for so long, and all of a sudden I feel like I can't even put 2 feet, one foot in front of the other. It's not working. What's wrong? It's weird.
Yes.
Anyway, glad I'm not the only one. I feel a bit better now.
No, definitely not.
So when you say you haven't been doing your strength training, how do you feel about that?
Mm.
Are you happy with that? I mean, you're okay with it, or what are your thoughts?
Oh, I guess I'm okay with it. I try not to, I try not to beat myself up these days if
Yep.
I skip a few
Excellent.
sessions
Mm.
because I don't think that's ideal. And it is just a time when, life is just a bit different over Christmas, New Year's, and,
It's nuts.
yeah, it is. It can be. So I feel okay about it, but I think strength training is important, and yeah, it'd be good to get back into the routine of life now that all the public holidays have sort of happened, and we're sort of back to the good old schedule. Yeah, but yeah, it's probably the one thing that I find harder because I don't mind when I'm elsewhere, generally getting out for a run. But yeah, doing the old grind of the strength training, it doesn't always happen.
What do you do
I'm
for your
lazy with it.
what sort of stuff do you do for your strength training?
Oh, I try to I have a little sequence that I do of like mostly body weighted exercises, but also adding
Yeah.
some weights in. And I just try to do like single leg stuff. And I do sometimes do like pump classes at the gym,
Okay.
just as a something so that I'm not by myself because I am pretty strength is not my strength.
Yeah.
Strength training is not my strength. I'd prefer not to do it if I had the choice. So I'm not very good with it.
That's quite a common runner thing, I think, because I sort of feel like that.
Yeah.
I've had to trick myself into, and it's not very mindful because that's what I'm supposed to be, being quite mindful. That's my whole
Yeah.
thing. I want to be more mindful.
Yeah.
But I'll even go to as far as, well, I'm going to do it later in the day so I can
Yes.
put a show on my iPad and have that going in the background so it's
Oh,
distracting me while I'm going through my exercises,
yes.
or doing something or listening to something while
Yes.
I'm doing it rather
Yeah.
than just doing it. And so I totally understand.
Mm.
To
I
find
think
ways to make it
I
pleasant.
think it is common for runners. I think, yeah,
Mm.
we just want to get out and be more cardiovascularly active, I guess.
Mm.
And strength training just doesn't always feel like that. And so I do find it easier if I'm in a class where there's like other
Yeah.
people and music. That's better.
Mm.
I think consistently I'll, yeah, like you said, I'll do it this afternoon or I'll put it off and I'll do it
Yeah.
another day this week. And then that just doesn't happen.
What day is
So
that?
yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and then the next week rolls around and you're like, oh no, that's no good.
That's not working. Well, this morning I did I had to do hill repeats I had set in
Mm,
my calendar, and I left it a little late, and it was quite warm, as we said
mm,
earlier. And I still would prefer to have done that,
yes.
3 minute hill repeats, so to do six of them,
Mm.
than to do the strength work.
Oh,
Even though
definitely.
it was hard, but it was yeah, I'd rather do because I'm
Yeah,
moving. Maybe, as you said,
that's
you feel like
yeah,
you're physically going somewhere. You're not sort of staying in the same,
exactly.
you know,
Yes, yes,
building.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then some people are great with strength training, and that's
Yeah.
their like they love it, and that's their go-to. It's just we're all a bit different, I guess. But I'm with you. I'd much rather do hill repeats than strength.
Yeah, we're kind of weird. I probably should spend some time being more mindful about it, and I might eventually find a way to break through that little mental barrier.
Mm,
Where you're
mm,
actually physically enjoying that feeling of,
mm.
doing the lunge or the the squat or
Yeah.
whatever it is, but actually enjoying some part of it.
Yes.
That enjoy is not the right word probably, but
Mm,
but just physically
mm.
focusing on that part of the body that you're using, and
Yes.
thinking about that burn in a positive way rather than
Yeah.
out.
Just let me know when you
When I
achieve
would
that
do
and you
that.
can give me
I
some hot
will.
tips.
I will. Yeah, don't hold your breath. Uh, anyway, um, what have you got coming up that you're excited about in your training schedule?
Um, Probably I think I said this last time, but I guess for me it's just the longer runs. I guess it's just what I enjoy more rather
Yeah.
than the other stuff.
It's
So
good, soon
yeah,
as you're training for a really long run, so it's good that you
yeah.
like those longer ones.
Well, yeah, I mean I hope it I hope it checks out on the day. But yeah, probably just that more than anything else. And I just tried to plan my longer runs in some some like trails around Hobart that
Mhm.
maybe that I'm not going to use on my shorter runs, and I have it as like a little bit of a adventure, weekend sort of adventure if it's a
Yep.
much longer run. That's probably what I'm looking forward to the most. otherwise, just the training ticking along and hoping it's working.
I don't know if I've asked you before, are
Hmm.
you using poles?
I don't know if we did talk about this, but I
Mm.
think my plan is to take polls for certainly for the last 25.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe pick it up at one of the aid stations, like and not carry it for the whole way though, because I
Okay.
think when I did the 75 last time, I don't think I would have used them until the last section,
Oh, that's interesting.
but I think they would have been really helpful on the last section because it's quite undulating there and lots of like short, sharp hills, or that's what
Yeah.
I found. But I feel like, yeah, the other sort of sections, I think I would have just had them straight away and not been using them. So I
Mm.
probably won't carry them until then.
Okay.
And I'm guessing I'll be feeling pretty tired at the
I
last
think so.
25.
I will.
So anything to help me out would be good. But I think, I think that would be the most helpful for me. Mm.
Yep, to have that. It's good to know. When do
Mm.
you start training, or have you already started training with, your nutrition and your fluids that you're going to try and take on board?
Yeah, I've just tried to do that already with my
Mhm.
long runs. Just making sure I take electrolytes. I think for
Yeah.
me that's really helpful, having water, but also having electrolytes.
Mhm.
And then just, using the food that I think I'll probably eat on the day. I think
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know until the day as
I
to
know.
what maybe you actually feel like or what
Yeah.
you think that your body wants. Um, but yeah, just taking things that I know that agree with me, and
Yeah.
then just trying to make sure that I utilize that. So yeah, just really practicing. I guess for my sort of more my shorter runs or less time on my feet, with the training, I'm pretty lazy. I don't take anything. I don't really feel like I need
Mhm.
anything. And I don't take electrolytes if it's under maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hour run.
Yeah.
But over that, yeah, I've been trying to emulate maybe what I'll do on the day. Mm.
What about the heat? And that again sounds ridiculous. Us people
Mm,
down here in Tassie talking about the heat, and the run may be freezing, or it might be
mm,
hot.
mm.
But do you,
I hope it's more on the freezing side.
when it comes to your training, I assume you're thinking about that a little bit as well when we're talking about fluids and electrolytes and that.
Yeah, because you do notice it, don't you, down here in Tassie? Like
Mm.
I can get pretty lazy with taking water on a long run, and then as the weather does warm up, you notice, oh, actually, I really need to take it. Whereas I used to live in Queensland, and you needed it all the time.
Yeah, for a 5K.
Oh yeah, easily. Um, yeah, so I guess with the heat, I'll just try and be aware of like how much, fluid I need to carry. I
Mm.
know that when I did the 75 last time, I actually got a little bit caught out on one of the legs
Yeah.
between aid stations,
Yeah.
and I thought I had enough water. And even though people think Tassie is cold all the time, it was actually a pretty hot, sunny day. And
Mm-hmm.
and I sort of, was between aid stations and thought, oh, actually, this isn't ideal. I'm not carrying enough water. And yeah, felt actually like, oh, it's a long way to get to the aid
Yeah.
station, and felt kind of dehydrated, and yeah, had made a bit of an error there for sure. So it is important.
It
I'll be
is.
looking at this time, yeah, seeing where the aid stations are and being maybe a little bit more sensible with actually how much I'm carrying.
Are there any like rivers at all? I mean, I know in the very beginning there is, and maybe in the first section, which you probably didn't do
Yeah,
in the 75. But
no.
I think there's a river there. It's probably not fresh water. I do think it might be salty.
Yeah, like you say, I mean, I guess because in Hobart, I feel like, especially on the mountain, I usually
Mm.
I'm pretty happy to just drink from the rivers, so it doesn't feel like you need to take heaps of water. But when I did the last run, yeah, I don't remember anything, and
That's
certainly when
interesting.
I was in that section that there was no aid stations, it was just bone dry. Um, yeah, and there luckily was actually, I think there was a water drop that they hadn't put on the map
Yeah.
that I came across. They just had like one of those pelicans, and I was so happy to come across it. And it because you really don't feel like you can ask other runners to take water off them, because that's that would not be ideal. Um yeah, so I'll be just a little bit more careful this time.
There's a lot to learn, isn't there? I don't know if
Mm.
I told you that my daughter's also planning to come in and do the 50K. She's
Yeah.
yeah, and her training has just been around uh, the Port Phillip Bay in Melbourne, very
Mm.
flat, and a pretty hilly that bit you're going to be doing, Nikki.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I think she's going to get quite a shock because everyone that I've talked to on the podcast who's done it, which is most of you,
Mm.
all talk about how that last section is quite hilly. So
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
50K, she's definitely going to be involved in that.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes it's just mental, isn't it? Like if you haven't been able to access hills as much with training,
Yeah,
it can, and then all of a sudden you're doing it, it can just affect you mentally, like how you're feeling about the race.
exactly. Yes, I might have to. She's
Mm.
pretty tough mentally, but
Yep.
we'll see how it goes. She still is only 29. She's the baby.
Oh, she'll be fine.
She will, that's true. Uh, all right. So your training's going well, which is really good. Is there anything that you're worried about? Or are you thinking that as long as everything keeps going the way it is, or is there, yeah. So,
Yeah, I think I probably am a little bit apprehensive of like, can I do this?
yeah,
Yeah, you always just feel like, oh, how am I going to feel on the day? Because I know that sometimes with runs, there's no rhyme or reason. You just go out and feel fantastic. And then maybe also sometimes have a run where you just do not feel great and you
crap.
can't really figure out why. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So, yeah, probably just starting as it's getting a bit closer, starting to feel apprehensive of like, have I actually done enough? And
Yeah,
will I be able to get through it? And I mean, it's all fun regardless, but there's probably that little sneaking feeling there.
yeah.
Hmm.
Is it common for you to get a little anxious before a big run or a big event like this?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Mm.
I guess I don't sort of dwell on it too much,
Mhm,
but yeah, I think it's natural, well, for me anyway, to
mhm.
sort of think, it doesn't, hopefully I can complete it. We'll see how we go. But then as it gets closer, you think, I really hope I can complete this. Um, yeah, so yes, a little bit for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I do. I totally get very anxious. And I've
Mm,
been racing, not this kind of distance, but I've been racing for a long time, but always
mm,
get really anxious. So it's a
mm,
weird thing. Um, but for me, it's having those conversations where it's just one
mm.
foot in front of the other. I've got
Yeah,
30 hours to do it. Ultimately, if I walk the whole
yes,
way and I know I can do that,
yes,
then that's what it is,
yes,
And so
yes,
it's taking that pressure off yourself when those little
yes,
thoughts come in and try to have a
yeah.
chat with you. So
Because
yeah,
a lot of it is mental. I know that
exactly.
when I did the 75, and that's the longest I hadn't run that far prior to that race.
Amazing.
And I just remember starting thinking, I'm not actually sure I can even do this, but
Mm,
just trying to break it down into, well, I'll just do 25 because I know that I can do
mhm.
that. And then that gets me to the main aid station, and then I'll see how I go, and then just compartmentalize it into 3 lots of 25 and just
Yeah.
not think about the distance.
Yep.
And on the day, I have to say that did help because, yeah, it's just mentally breaking it down. You can do
Yeah.
lots of smaller sections, but one big section feels daunting.
Yeah. It's a bit like how you eat an elephant. So that's the
Yeah, that's
saying, isn't it?
right.
One bite at a time. I think
Yes.
a lot of the distance events I've done, I have also in some way broken it up in
Mm,
my head as well in order to
mm,
make it sort of very achievable. I can always
mm.
get to 5K, always get to 10K
Yeah.
or whatever. And then of course the last 10K in a marathon, for example, it's like, well, it's only
Mm.
10K. And then
Yeah.
you get down to, oh, it's only 1K. I can definitely run a little bit
I
faster for
know.
1K. It's
It's
like,
funny, isn't it, how it really does make a difference? Because
absolutely.
all it is mental. It's not changing the distance at all. But
Yeah.
I find it helps, for sure. Mm.
Mm. Is there anything that you're listening to in those longer runs, or are you running naked? Can't remember with your ears. Naked
No,
ears.
I do generally.
Mm.
I don't run naked too often. No,
It's a bit hot.
I,
You're in the bush, whatever.
I guess if it is a bit hot, seems extreme though.
Yeah, it is a bit extreme. Let's not go there. Yes.
Yeah, I guess lately I've been listening to music. I sort of go between like podcasts and music.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just feel like listening to a podcast. Sometimes I feel like listening to music. Funnily enough, if I'm running up hills, I generally listen to music, and if it's more downhill, put on a podcast.
It's a sort of tempo thing, I reckon. Helps you get up the hill, perhaps.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I
The
think
music.
it for me it is a bit helpful. I guess where I am in Hobart, a lot of my longer runs, I usually go up Mount Wellington Way, and so it's usually sort of up, 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 and then somewhat, down. And so yeah, maybe music on the way up, podcasts more so on the way down. And sometimes I just try and switch off and just not have
Yeah.
anything because it just feels better at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm.
All right. Well, I think we have something like, I know I checked last week when I spoke to someone, it
Oh,
was like 9 weeks and 2 days. So it's
oh
probably
God.
8 weeks and 4 days or something, whatever
Oh.
today is. By the time people listen to it, it'll probably be 7 weeks, something that we have
Yes.
to go. So it
Yeah.
doesn't seem very far away when we break it down to that.
No,
When did that happen?
kind of close. Yes, I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't planned for that.
No.
Yeah, the weeks do tick by quite quickly, don't they? Especially, Christmas and New Year's, and then all of a sudden it's a lot closer.
It's a new year and we're, it's only, I guess, 2 months, because it's at the very beginning of March. It's basically
Yes.
2 and a little bit months into the year. So yeah, it'll be 8 weeks, probably 8.5 weeks, we could say would be accurate enough. So exciting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I'm glad things are
My
going
pleasure.
well for you. That's awesome. Don't jump off straight away, but thank you again, and we will talk to you in another 4 weeks.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And good luck. And just like that, we're another step closer to the start line. Big thanks to our runners for sharing their progress, and to you for cheering them on. Remember, it's the journey, not just the destination, that shapes us. Keep supporting our crew as they push towards that start line. And if you're enjoying this series, we would love to hear from you. Why not leave us a review and share the podcast with friends? Let's all go a little nuts together.